Greetings, my name is SC King, and I'm here with a review for you about Illuminations, The Grinch. So we'll do a little backstory. There's the original 1957 Dr. Seuss classic book, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And then in 1966, I believe, was the Chuck Jones and Ben Washam directed How the Grinch Stole Christmas animated feature. It's like 20 minutes long. Then in the year 2000, Ron Howard and company brought us his version of The Grinch Tale, starring Jim Carrey as the Grinch. And now we are here in 2018 with Illuminations version. I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory with me and the Grinch. You know, I enjoy every Dr. Seuss book, as does every human who breathes, air. And the original cartoon is a perfect representation of that book. I was never, even as a child, I was never a big fan of the Jim Carrey version. And that movie has been hailed as a classic, and I don't want to challenge its classic status. I never gelled with that version of the Grinch. I always found it to be really obnoxious and kind of weird and gross. But I do appreciate the artistry that went into that movie. Jim Carrey looks fantastic as the Grinch. There's so much beautiful effects, practical and otherwise, in that film. It's really ambitious. The big thing I'll say about this movie off the bat is it is 100% harmless. There's a very rocky history of Dr. Seuss adaptations on film. There's the Grinch. There is The Cat in the Hat, which we all know about and try to avoid as much as possible. There is Horton Hears a Who, which in my opinion is still the best translation of a Dr. Seuss film into a feature length. Like, once again, these books are so small. They don't need to be feature length, but I think Horton Hears a Who was done the best so far, with this Grinch film actually coming in second to that. Lord knows I was not a big fan of Illuminations, the Lorax film. I feel like the message got lost in all the clutter and silly songs, and the fact that they really did not stick the landing by taking away all the power from the ending of the Lorax book. But I don't want to get into a Lorax discussion right now. But before I continue, let me just bring up my niece and let her tell you from the kids' mouth how the kids feel about this movie. So we just got out of Illuminations, The Grinch. So did you like the movie?
It was cool.
Do you like this better than the other Grinch versions?
Yeah.
Do you like the live action one better?
Not really.
And you've seen the original? What was your favorite part about this version of The Grinch?
It was so cute but sad at the same time.
The baby Grinch. So it's full of cute things. That's why you liked it.
Yes.
Between Max.
It's animated 2018 style.
But what did you think about the movie overall?
Cool.
It was cool.
The characters looked cuter than uglier and meaner. Like the Grinch, honestly, I think he looks pretty cool. Because like his face is round and you have a little nose.
They made the Grinch is a lot cuter in this version than in other versions. And so there you have it. I went with my niece and nephew, and they both enjoyed it. My niece liked it more than my nephew, which is funny because she's a few years older than my nephew, and she's 12. But I was in a theater full of parents and kids, and all the kids, especially the younger kids, were having a really good time. They were laughing at a lot of the physical humor. They were really enjoying all the colors and animation, and it's a very beautiful movie. It's probably its best asset is how wonderful and whimsical and very Seuss-like this world is and appears, and they do capture that. And you guys all know the story. It's the story about a grumpy guy who does not like Christmas and steals it from this little town of happy people. See, there are some differences in all the different versions. I'll try to judge this film in two different ways. You're looking at it objectively and not comparing it to the source material. Yes, it is a very fun, very colorful film. Really, I think it's going to work best for little kids. The adults aren't going to get as much out of this. I don't think the adults will get the most out of this movie, aside from the fact that, once again, it's harmless. Like, it's fun to watch. It didn't grate on my nerves like a lot of the Lorax did, and several other Illumination films have. It was fun and and pleasant enough to watch. The adventure didn't hurt. Everything flowed and pretty much worked. If I was to make more comparisons to the source material, I would say that this is the softest Grinch we could possibly ever have. He's not. This Grinch isn't really that terrible. He's mean, kind of. He's more like passive aggressive and just, I guess reasonably unpleasant. And it barely touches on the backstory. This story is just more of a loner. It's not about the Who's being terrible. The Who's are all nice people who do their thing. Nobody's mean to the Grinch. It's really just about somebody who grew up with nobody there. And so he kind of put up all these walls around himself. Somebody who hates being alone, but thinks they need to be alone, kind of a thing. But the rest of the story plays out the same way that the Grinch story does. If you know the Grinch story, all those events happen here. There's just a lot of padding in between. And when they're hitting the story beats from the book and stuff, it looks fantastic. And when they're in the in-between, it's watchable. This Grinch story is also kind of broken up into two because it's about the Grinch on one side, and then there's a lot of Cindy Lou Who side story that happens in this movie. She has her own plot, her own quest that she's trying to accomplish, and the whole cast of friends that it brings in for that portion of the story. It was an interesting take on it. I was never as interested in any of the Cindy Lou Who stuff, but some kids might be because the kids that surround her are cute and bubbly and funny and do, fun, bubbly Illumination kid things. Putting all the other stuff aside, just looking at it as a different version of the story, yeah, it's much more tame, a lot more safe. The original Grinch book is all black and white, and the Grinch has like these red eyes. He's very menacing and scheming and just looks terrible. He's an old man. It says he's 53. In the animated version, he's even more diabolical looking and scary and creepy and weird. And it all works. Like the style works. In Jim Carrey's version, he's definitely a lot meaner and angrier and all that is also interesting. And this version is so soft and round and almost cuddly in a lot of ways. Even in his design, Illumination knew what they were doing in making the roundest, most cuddly looking Grinch. And more often than not, you feel more sorry for him than you do anger. This Grinch is only kind of Grinchy sometimes. If nothing else, he's just kind of a really cool inventor who makes all of these things. And when it gets to the point where he steals Christmas, that entire sequence is actually really cool how they use a lot of the gadgets and things that he created to steal Christmas from the Who's. That entire sequence is really, really cool. And I wish it could have been more of that and just less of the kind of meandering around and little side quest. And I get it. I mean, the book isn't that long. The story isn't that long. So they got to find a way to pad it out. I will say that I'll be looking forward to Illumination's Cat in the Hat movie. I'm assuming they're going to make it because I heard they have rights to make as many Seuss films as they want. And the Cat in the Hat is all about, the diversions and little side quests and just, making noise and making a mess. And I think Illumination will thrive in that category. But movies cost money. And is it worth money? Yeah, for the kids. This is it's a fun movie. I definitely wish they would have gone just more Grinchy with the Grinch, but I still had a good time. The kids had a fun time. It's very pretty to look at. It's got a great style, and it's enjoyable, and it's overflowing with Christmas feelings. This would be a great one to watch around the holidays with the kids. I can see people enjoying it, and I was very pleasantly pleased that I didn't walk out hating it. So, yes. Have you seen The Grinch? What's your favorite version of The Grinch? Put down in the comments below. And what's your favorite Christmas movie? Please let me know. And I will catch you guys on the flip side.